Hello, fellow Redbirds. Welcome to Bird Fans Forever podcast number 38. Please follow us on our @BirdFansForever Twitter account to be notified of our latest podcast videos and participate in our fun polls. Also, go visit our website, www.birdfansforever, where you can find a list of our previous podcasts. If you haven't already done so, go visit Bird Fans Forever on YouTube and dunk on that subscribe button. YouTube has our archive of classic Redbird games that we've accumulated thanks to so many Redbird fans who've been kind enough to share their video libraries with us. We're still adding to our list of online games, and fans can go there and find an old game to watch. The good game to catch is the March 3rd, 1984 game versus Tulsa, who were ranked number 9 at the time. A great Redbird win with today's guest. Our guest today played for 3 straight NCAA tournament teams in 83, 84, and 85. In NCAA tournament games, he scored 49 career points. That's the most career points for a Redbird in the NCAA tournament. He scored 1,068 points in his career and was inducted into the Percy Family Hall of Fame in 2006. We'll be right back with Rickie Johnson.
And welcome to Bird Fan Forever, episode 38 with Rickie Johnson. We call him Slick. He played from 1981 to 1985. He played on 3 NCAA teams. I still got to get correction from Lou's episode. So if you watched Lou's, he kind of dogged Rickie on his free throw and shooting percentage. And we're going to put a correction to that. Rickie is 9th all-time field goal percentage leader at Illinois State with 53.6.
I've dropped down to 9th? Wow.
You dropped it 9th. And Slick
number 2, man. Have people been making that many shots?
And Slick, everybody ahead of you is 4 inches taller than you and probably didn't shoot the ball inside of 9 or 10 feet, or outside of 9 or 10 feet. So the shooting stuff that Lou referred to is just the brotherly dogging. So, Slick, man, thank you for being on.
Lou worked for an auto plant, man. Those fumes have to be, those the fumes and stuff that he has to involve in production of those cars. It has to affect your memory, man. So that's my brother. He knows how much I love him. So yeah. No, get out in the air more, Lou.
All right. So easy question, like we always start. Big Slick Rick, how did you get to Illinois State?
Well, John, you know how the process goes, man. When you're being recruited, man, I had fun with the recruiting process, and things are somewhat different now. But my process, man, was probably similar to yours, man. I mean, it's some things I wanted to do, some things I was looking for. And to be honest with you, I mean, it kind of turned into a process that was pretty complete and easy. You get 4 visits, and I wanted to get those narrowed down. But
where'd you go?
My coach. And so, Oklahoma, Indiana was in that final 6. Any kid that grows up in Indianapolis, Indiana, wants to play for Indiana. That's just, you grew up. It doesn't, you at some levels want to be recruited by Coach Knight, and I was fortunate enough that they were looking at me, and SMU, and but the thing was that one of the most interesting things, before I get into how I got narrowed down, is that I had a lot of friends that played for Butler, and this is kind of pre-Butler, pre-national championship game Butler, but
right.
A lot of the high school guys or a lot of guys from my neighborhood, some guys that I played against went to Butler. So, I could see those guys every day if I wanted to. Butler's fit 25 minutes from where I grew up at. But I used Butler as one of my official visits so I could hang out with those guys for 3 days. 15 minutes from my house. But by then I kind of knew where I was, what I was looking for, but I still wanted to go hang out on the campus of Butler, because I wanted to hang out with my friends. But yeah, Illinois State just had everything, man. They had, it was close to home. I wanted to major in mass communications, and I love their mass communications department. It's just the players were so cool, John. You know how important that is, that you feel comfortable with, with what you're going to be, who you're going to be living with or become brothers with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oregon State was #1 team in the country, 90% of the time that year. And it came down to Oregon State and Illinois State. And the deciding factor basically was the amount of time I got to spend with the players and the coaches, and not as much, but it wasn't, I don't blame Oregon State. Again, they were the number one team in the country most of the year. When I went on my visit, they had 3 autograph sessions, which took 4 hours. And, they just wanted signatures, man. They had, people were bringing in, Oregon State's their nickname is the Beavers. People were bringing in live beavers or stuffed beavers, and had the players signing real beavers, and this is insane, man. But
right.
Illinois State just, is what John, Illinois State felt like home, man, right away, and it was pretty easy. Good undergraduate mass comm department, an opportunity to, if I worked hard enough, to make a contribution early in my career. And it was close to home. I mean, I'm really close to my family, and that kind of sealed it for me.
Yeah. Talk about your high school team, because, I got to play against one of those goofballs. He destroyed us, and we do not like the trees on this podcast here. And I get busted on Indiana State every time I kind of dog them, but unfortunately, you and I know how it works, right? Anybody outside of Illinois State in the Valley is not my favorite school. And so talk about your high school team, because you had a killer high school team.
We were, we got 3 players off our high school team that are in our respective universities Hall of Fame. Myself, John Sherman Williams.
Boo!
And, he's on conference.
I know he's your boy, but man, he destroyed us.
He's John's the second leading career scorer in Missouri Valley Conference history.
Yes.
And we played, we grew up, 5 minutes from each other. We played probably on the same team since 5th grade.
Wow.
And then we had a point guard by the name of Darren Fitzgerald that Steph Curry just broke his 3-point shooting record at Davidson. But it's one record that I don't think anybody's going to ever get. Well, maybe I shouldn't say never, but Fitz is still, he's Butler's second career leading scorer. And Fitz is still the leader in average threes per game, like it's 7. He had 65 against Detroit. He's 5'8". These are the guys that I played 3 years of high school ball, and we couldn't even get out of a section. That's how tough the area was. And you guys might have heard of Trey Lyles. He played well for Sacramento this past year. He played at Kentucky, lottery pick. His father was our center, and Trey only wished he was athletic as well as his father. Thomas Lyles was this amazing, played some professional basketball. Man, we were loaded. We had a guy by the name of Larry Jury who went to Big Bend out of Washington and ended up getting was the final cut of the Trailblazers. He couldn't even get on the court, for 3 years.
Right.
We were loaded, but the whole city was loaded, and there was no class system. So it's interesting, I had 300 people in my class, and in the school, probably 700. That would have put us in like Class A. And if I, no disrespect to Class A, but I'm glad the fact I got to play against, for example, I got to play against Brad Duncan my senior year when they were number 1 in the state and we were number 2 in the state.
Wow.
4,000 people or something at that game.
Right.
I don't know if those type of games are going to happen with the enrollment difference now.
Yeah. So, Steve, you going to say something?
I was going to say, did you guard Brad during that game or no?
Brad was almost a 4-year starter. So, Anderson Madison Heights, I mean, if you know anything about Indiana, their basketball history, they've had 3 or 4 Mr. Basketballs, and so Brad was a starter. So I hadn't heard about Brad and heard about how well he could shoot, and we when the captains met, he came out there, and they had 2 players, Winston Morgan and Stu Robinson, who ended up playing for Indiana, starters for Indiana. So I knew about them, and when I came out there to meet the captain, me and Sherman, I'm like looking at Brad, and there was this thing that said that Brad, it was a rumor, but Brad couldn't see in one eye, but this guy was the best shooter in the state. And kind of fast forward, when we got to Illinois State, Brad was like, "Yeah, I saw you looking at my eye at the captain's meeting." You know, it was number one team in the state, number two team in the state. They put a clinic on us, you know. But I was looking at Brad like, okay, can you really see how that? Nobody that can shoot that well only has one eye. That was a running joke, man. He killed us too, man. He shot the ball well, man. But you know, it's you know, I was happy actually with the, you know, came to preview with Brad and his parents. So again, it's, you know, those guys, man. You're probably, if I bring up Brad, Michael, or Lou, man. I mean, during this podcast, man, I will start smiling, man, because those guys are my brothers.
Right.
My voice will crack. Any stories I tell, because it's just, it doesn't get any better than that, man. I mean, to have, and you know what I'm talking about, Pimp, when you have,
man, I have it too,
like that, man. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Right.
Were any of them on the visit when you went to ISU?
I'm sorry, Steve.
When you went on the visit, were any of them with you?
No. You know, the thing was that, you know, it was hard for me to get a visit in because, you know, I wanted to go for, and Oregon State was this, you know, they wanted a decision right away. And I understood. I mean, you know, they were way on the, you know, northwest part of the country. But, you know, the challenge for me, Steve, was that I ran track. And I was the best sprinter in the state. I was running 48s and 49s. I was one of the best sprinters in the state. So my track coach wasn't having it. And, you know, my track coach, may he rest in peace, Coach Walt Style, one of my favorite people in the whole world. But him and Coach Donald will actually, you know, because Coach would come and want to talk to me doing it, and he's like, Johnson has to be out there on that track, you know. And way to show him some game techniques. He's not coming in, you know. So, you know, my high school coach was kind of in the middle, but, you know, I mean, I had track meets, and what happened was that I got hurt. I ran the state's fastest 400 third week, and I got hurt the next meet, and pulled a muscle, and so they kind of opened up. Well, I can go on visits now. So nobody saw. I came on a Monday, and it's interesting because I was looking at television today, and the game. I came on a Monday, the day that Ronald Reagan got shot. You guys remember that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Ronald Reagan gets shot. Indiana is playing North Carolina for the national championship, and they're deciding whether or not to have the game. I came on. Who goes on a recruiting trip on a Monday?
Right.
And that's kind of sealed the deal because I get here, and I'm there's, you know, they showing me around. Reagan gets shot, goes down, and I'm going on to TV 10, right? And the students are doing all the interviews. And they're saying, this is what you're going to be doing when you come to Illinois State, off the court. It was amazing. They grabbed the cameras. They're interviewing people in the quad. I'm like, and that's what kind of sold me, the fact that the students were doing all the interviews. And so I was on a Monday. I had the best Monday visit probably in the history of Illinois State. Man, Dwayne Ty sold me some stuff. I'm thinking, y'all getting down like this on Monday? You know, so. That was kind of cool. So, and then Indiana won the game, and, you know, so that made me happy, you know. So, you know, it just, everything came to part. It was like a perfect storm. But I was by myself, and, you know, and I had the thing was that at this point, my mom was getting a little tired because me and my mom lived together by ourselves, and she had, you know, my mom was a sports fan, but this recruiting stuff, she changed her number. So I came back from my visit with Illinois State, and she just said, you know, Sam Scare's father brought me back, said, hi, Coach Scares. Rickie, throw your laundry there. You have to fly out to Oregon State tomorrow morning. You know, and it's like, Mom, you have to stay there in front of Coach, you know. Coming in, throwing in, getting a suitcase, flying back out. And my mom was about sick of it, man. I said, Mom, I think I know where I'm going, but I've already promised Oregon State I would come. So,
yeah. That is awesome, dude. That is awesome.
It worked out well, huh?
It did. And then to have Sam Skerrich's dad, because I had Coach Smith and Coach Cunningham bring me down, right? Coach Cunningham drove me down, and then Coach Smith drove me back, right? And to be able to sit in the car with the coaches, I don't know about you, but that was very different because everybody else wanted to fly me in and out, but I didn't get any time to spend with the coaches. And so, you know, creating that bond with those coaches is very important because those are the guys that are going to teach you, coach you, right? Did I want to be a part of this situation? And that's really kind of what sold me. And it's kind of neat to hear you talk about Coach, Sam Skerrich was my roommate for 2 years and my teammate for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I know Sam Sr. and he drove you back. That is so cool. And so
yeah, he was my mom. Really, my mom. My mom's the nicest person in the world. I might be a little biased with that, but she, everybody, man, and but she really liked Coach Skerrich, and to kind of go back to Brad's thing, they set it up that me and Brad went to preview together. So we didn't go to recruitment, but we had to come to preview together.
Right.
And I hadn't seen Brad since they beat us. And Brad never picked to win the state. We were picked to win the state, and we both got upset. But I hadn't seen him since we won. So, Brad's father pulls up, knocks on the door. I come out. We drove 2.5 hours without saying one word to each other.
Really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
We both sat in the back seat. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? And that was it. And then on the way back, so you go through previews a couple of days. So they made us play that evening.
Yes. Same here.
Yeah, made us play. We had to go over to you how to play. And the coaches are there. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get Brad back. So I kept stealing the ball, but I was fouling. I'm like, they can't call foul. So I must have had like 10 dunks at scrimmage, man. And I just kept ripping him and fouling him. But he wasn't Brad's tough. He wasn't called foul. So I must have dunked on McCase. Man, I dunked on everybody. I was just going nuts, man.
Yeah.
And, so when we rolled back to Indianapolis, Brad didn't speak to me then.
Yeah.
Hours in a car without saying one word. And now when we talk, we never stood up. So that was brutal, man. Every now and then, Brad's father would look back and say, "You guys okay?" Because nobody sat in the front seat. Me and Brad sat in the back seat. Brad's father had a cool 1969 Chevy, man. And he drove it about 45 miles per hour, man. And I mean, could you imagine sitting in the back seat, nobody's in the front, and like driving Miss Daisy, but driving Brad,
just like a chauffeur.
Driving Brad and Rickie, and we didn't say a word, not one word. That's kind of cool.
All right, Slick Rick, you made my life miserable with Indiana State. So tell us why you made our lives miserable with Indiana State.
Well, it was
what's his name?
Indiana State had a player by the name of John Sherman Williams. I know this town remembers him. He was this. Me and Sherm grew up together in Indianapolis, man. We played on 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. He's a year behind me, but we played on every team together, grew up from about 3rd grade on. And so Sherm was just talented, man. I mean, freaky talented, man. I mean, I remember when he first started dunking, he was like 12, man. They kept raising the rims at the boys' club. So, and he would raise it up, and he said, Sherm, how you tell a 12-year-old to stop dunking? I mean, he was just that incredible, man. He's second in career scoring in the Missouri Valley Conference. He's right behind Larry Bird. I mean, that's kind of, but the thing was that, I had a little bit of success with him because I was familiar with him, but I knew for a fact, man, that when I left, I was going to have a problem with him. And I know he was itching because the thing is that a story is that, we didn't really recruit, they never recruited Sherman. And, my high school coach would bring the team down when Sherman was still a senior. And Sherman always thought, why wouldn't Illinois State recruit? Coach Donovan didn't think he really had a chance, but we were pretty full, though. But, he just really, really was looking forward to playing Illinois State when I left. He's like, nobody.
Well, talk about the last game you played against him and how you ended up beating him.
Absolutely. But I'm going to go back to when I was a sophomore, and he was a freshman. And as a freshman, he averaged 19.5 points a game as a freshman. He was the leading scorer, second leading freshman scorer in the country. And me and William Anderson, we all played the same conference. Remember William Anderson? So we all played the same conference. And we're looking at this scouting report, and of course Sherman had like people think I could jump. Compared to Sherman, Sherman 44. I mean, and he had these big hands, like bigger than Michael Jordan type hands. So he could do stuff with it, I mean, I still could never palm a ball. So his stuff looked effortless. But we're looking at the tape. You know how they would put down the personnel and then show some video in school.
Yep.
And then Coach Platt was like, you know what? You got to be off of him because he will jump over you and dunk. Give him the jump shot. Give him the jump shot. Me and William looked at each other like, and Hank Corley was going to start on him. He said, Hank, you got him. I'm like, Hank, do not lay off.
No way.
But they telling me to say, Hank, William, tell him, you know. So Hank comes out, and the first 5 times he gets it, and the three-pointer was in effect, we expect, but he hits 4 20-footers on Hank from 20 feet out. Just catch it right and just it's off of me. The 5th jump shot he ran down the sidelines, and Hank cursed out every coach on the bench. I mean, of course not Coach Donowall, but all I can't even repeat this. This is a family show, what Hank said to him. And I said, Hank, I told you. So when I came in, I usually was, if somebody, my sophomore year, somebody got hot, I usually was the first person to come down and stop him. I said, watch how I guard him. I held him, bumped him, got physical with him.
Yeah,
and I was
absolutely.
going to irritate him. I said, you think I'm listening to that scout report from somebody I've known my whole life? No, not even.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But, you know, the kind of fast forward, so we had beaten them like 6 straight games. And then my senior year, they had a chance to beat us in overtime. They had the ball, score was tied up. Worst thing was going to go to overtime, but they ran a play that our coaches did phenomenal jobs on the
scouting.
I
Absolutely.
mean, our second team, our teams could run the other team's offense. Got a story about that too, but could run the other team's offense better than they could. But if we got 3 days to prepare, it was a wrap.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
And so they ran a play that I was familiar with. So I stole the ball with with about 4 seconds to go, took 2 dribbles, went to the half court, shot it from 50 feet, and went in. And Sherm just collapsed. Because you got to remember, you go over the summer, man, them were bragging rights, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen, right?
And I tried to pick him up, man, and he swung on me, man. That's why I've been a fan of the greeting line, man. Because I tried to pick him up on the ground. I was like, I should have just went to the locker room. And another thing about Indiana State, they have the type of system where, where you set. Your season tickets for football, basketball is part of your tuition. So it's first come, first serve. That's how Indiana State with Larry Bird had those crazy crowds because, it's like that's why they were getting to the games like 3 o'clock, man. So so you don't pay for tickets, and I probably had about 60 former classmates that went to Indiana State, and man, they were giving it to me. They gave it to me all the time. You should have went to Indiana State. Indiana State didn't recruit me, but they didn't care, man. High school for 4 years. They just. Yeah, sir, Rickie, you ain't, you're a trainer. I hit that shot, and I think still today, I'm the first person that, and I know Dwayne Wade gets credit for it in Miami, but I ran and jumped on the scores table when I hit that shot. I think I'm one of the first people to hit a shot and jump on the scores table. Now everyone, everybody's Michael Jordan did the 6 after they won, I jumped on the scores table first. Okay. But no, it was fun playing against Sherman, and my high school coach, who I was like a second father to me, he played basketball at Indiana State too. He always said he don't care who won, but Coach Fredo cared, man. He picked our games, man. I'm thinking, I know you want Sherman to win because you're an Indiana State grad. It ain't happening today.
I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure Sherman went for 30-plus both times my freshman year.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure he beat. We need to go look that up. We'll look at.
I can tell you one game he won. It was your senior year in the Missouri Valley Conference. We hosted Indiana State the first round, right?
Yes.
And we were on the bubble, and that guy makes he's making these 20-foot turnaround jumpers guarded. He was just on fire.
Yeah.
And he
had a lot more points because you had the experimental year with the 3-point line, but 3 of your 4 years did not have a 3-point line. He would have made a ton more points, right? The 3-point line wasn't even in my freshman year, right? So,
when Sherman would come in town, I would go pick him up at the Holiday Inn North and bring him over for dinner, and we would hang out because, John, you know how our pregame was. You didn't have no freedom, but it was
no.
They just got per diem, and it's like, hey, be on the bus, whatever.
Really?
We had walk-through where you had to wear a suit. Walk-through, we had film session, and no matter what, and we would be in a room in a suit and tie, but it would just be us. We were dressing up for ourselves, and they would go over personnel, go over everything, and then you would be released, and then you had to be back, and be ready to go. And you say, hey,
40 minutes. You'd have like 40 minutes. You'd have just enough time. Some guys would change. Some guys would just head right to the gym. I would head to the gym because I was always in a suit after the games, right?
Yeah,
so
you have to wear a suit.
Yeah.
But I would have picked up Sherm and brought him up for dinner because he wanted to keep his per diem, and we made dinner for him, and I said, we got to go, Sherm. He said, man, they'll wait for me, and the bus was leaving out. I actually had to cut in front of the bus so he could get on the bus to go to the arena. And all I cared about was Donald finds out I'm spending time.
Oh, you're dead now. Yeah.
Because it was my junior year, we were playing Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had a guy from my neighborhood. He actually played with Mike Williams at Cincinnati. His name was Jeff Robertson. And Jeff was playing Pittsburgh, and we were in a tournament. And at that time, I was going nuts my junior year. My first 8 games, I was having like 28 points a game. I got 35. I was just going nuts. To tell you how it ended up, I only ended up averaging 15 points a game. The first 8 games, it was kind of cool. I'm picking up USA Today. I'm like number 9 in the country in scoring. And when we played Pittsburgh, man, and Pittsburgh played a boxing. But anyway, the night before, playing video games in the hallway, and we're playing Pittsburgh in their own tournament, and Donald comes down there and sees it. I'm thinking, uh-oh. And I went 4 for 4, but they did a boxing once, so I only got 4 shots. Hey, 4 for 4 and missed. But I knew so you know how it is, John. You come in after a road trip, get dressed. And he made us practice after flying back from Pittsburgh. And I knew I was going to get thrown out.
12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Yes, it was always us at Indiana State, and John Sherman Williams welcomed me into that midnight practice because we bust back from Indiana that Sunday afternoon from Terre Haute. It's got to be 11, 12 o'clock. We walk in there, and he's like, I've got nothing to say to you suckers. Dressed and ready to go in 20 minutes.
Man, we played, actually it was an afternoon practice. We flew, man, but we practiced 3 times after wins in my career.
Yeah. When you just didn't play well.
Yeah. It wasn't coach's philosophy was, I want to play the game as well as you can play.
Right.
The rules say you have to put an opponent. It's kind of like chess when you play chess against yourself. The rules of basketball simply say you have to have an opponent. We didn't really look at it that way. We were competing against the game. And one game I remember, University of Detroit, we spent 3 days, and he wanted that first pass pushed beyond the 3-point line. He wanted it pushed out, and we were pushing it out to about the free throw line. Okay, instead of the 3-point line. Now, we won the game by 12 points. Isn't good enough, man. Downstairs, gym. Okay, we did that drill. And I'm thinking, it's funny, man, because you come out of the locker room and people would surround, wait for autographs, and we can't sign nothing. You go down that ramp in the Horton Field out.
You gotta go down the ramp.
So also we got practice uniforms on.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go on and on. Games where like my freshman year, we played against Bradley. Now, again, I'm a freshman. I'm not versed on the rivalry yet.
Right.
I started that game.
Yeah.
Okay. Make a long story short, we were in number 2 defense, John. That was switching everything. Anyway, Bradley had beaten us 4 straight, but that's before I got there. That was my first Bradley game. Anyway, my man tipped the ball at the buzzer. Could you imagine your man against Bradley tipping the ball at Horton Fieldhouse at the buzzer?
I got a bad Tulsa story. Yep.
Yeah, we come in the locker room, and he said, who was guarding mine? And the thing was, but we switched to 2 offense because I recognized what was going on. Bradley used to run this thing called T-game. I said, I'll notice it, go to number 2. Everybody did what they were supposed to do except Rick and Mike. And Donald Wall said, Johnson, go to the board. And I'm 17 years old.
Yeah.
This last play. I'm like this. I'm kind of caught up. I'm shaking. You got to draw a basket free throw line and put 10 people on there, zeros and X's, and I'm shaking, and I'm like, and I'm throwing lines that way, and I said, well, I saw 2, and after about 20 minutes, he said, sit down. Now, we played at 11 o'clock, okay? We played at 11 o'clock, right? Early game. Game was over about 1. He kept us in that locker room at 8 o'clock at night. Okay? 8 o'clock. Yep. He was like, go get dressed for practice. He would say, he would call the captains to his house. He lived on Garden Street. Captains would come back and say, we got practice in 30 minutes. Then he'd say, tell him to get Thate. Tell him not to get Thate. We went through that until 8 o'clock at night. And at 8 o'clock at night, he sent us home.
Wow.
12 o'clock to 8. We didn't lose to Bradley again until my senior year.
Yeah.
I'm like, I ain't going through that again. And then, on top of that, now this is kind of cool, right? So, I knew I was in the right. So, we get back to Waterson. I said, Mike. I said, Slick, don't worry about it, man. I'm going to get it tomorrow. I know. I just block out.
Yeah, once they saw the tape.
Why'd you say that? He said, Mike said, I want to get it 2 nights in a row. I'm going to get it. Check this out, fellas. Tell me if this is cool. So we come in for practice the next day. Wall sets up the last play of the game. Okay? Now, I didn't find out what I'm going to tell you until 10 years after I graduated. But Coach has set up the last play. Remember, they had those reel-to-reels then.
Yep.
Broken projector. It was he had it fixed to run for 10 seconds because the motor had almost burned out. But it worked. So that last play.
Yeah.
And it saw Michael McKinney backpedaling out of the way, and Marty Mann running right past him. Now the ball picked. So again, for effect, picks up the projector, boom, goes into 100 pieces. The projector was already broke.
Right.
We were like, coaches went scrambling, lenses were going everywhere, and he turned to McKinney and said, "You lost it." Because Coach walked up to me when we walked in. He walked up to me. And again, I didn't know that he had talked. I thought he said, "Take his hand." I said, "Take my hand." You did. What, 17-year-old? I'm thinking, here go everybody else. Here go Brad Lou. I thought he was going to hit you too, man. That's one of my favorite Bradley stories, man, because that thing when he said, "Now clean it up." We didn't lose to them ever again. We beat them we cost them a trip to the NCAA tournament. We beat them. NIL. We didn't lose again until my senior year. So let that be a lesson, young coaches. Break a projector in front of your team. You won't lose no more. You do. Throw a real projector against the wall. That will guarantee you 6 straight wins against your rival.
Unfortunately, most coaches today don't know what a projector is, let alone you're dating yourself.
Man, I was missing those DVDs you held up, John, man. And when I said, "What's a DVD, man?" Everything's on fire. I'm like, "Gee, oh my goodness, man." So yeah, I know, man. We're dinosaurs, man.
We're converting these over for Ricky. We're putting them up on Bird Fan, and I'm making copies.
Like, what are those, man? It's like flash drives, man.
I'm making copies so that he can keep his originals and send his copies out to his teammates. So
yeah.
Can we talk one more Bradley moment?
Loaded. I'm in my living room now, man. I keep games loaded. Downstairs in the family room. Oh, yeah. You come to my house, you have to watch me. I got everything. I got remotes everywhere, man. I got remotes on my hip like a holster, man. I can turn on that one, go downstairs. I'm good. You come to my house, you're watching me.
Ricky, you played in that game with less than it was Duncan, right? They kept throwing the balls back and forth at each other.
That was the coolest thing in the world, wasn't it, Steve?
I love that thing. Yeah. That would never happen these days, right?
And that is Brad. Let me tell you something about Brad. We had a reunion last year. We got together for the Big Ten tournament, and Coach was denied. And Brad, Coach and Brad laughed at it. Okay, people in Bloomington. Brad Duncan was Coach Donovan's favorite player. And I don't even think it's close to second.
Really?
Now, they will deny, like a good coach is going to say, I had great players, and, And I'm even going to go as far as to say, even when coaching with the Western Michigan, Brad just epitomizes everything Coach loved in the player. Brad would do some things, man. Brad would come out there, man, and maybe hung out and say, we would have to run a 3-mile run for the distance. And Brad said, I think I'm running a 16 today. And I know what Brad did the night before. Okay?
I've heard these stories, yeah.
Party. I know we did. And he would go out and run a 5-minute interval and just blow everybody away.
Yep.
Wouldn't even be breathing hard. And then, one time him and Coach Platt got into it. You probably never heard this story. Because Brad was always right. Brad was that smart. I'm telling you, man. So we were running over something, and Coach Platt had set up the scheme, and he wanted to bump the cutter and then contest. Brad did that, but he saw something else, so Brad didn't bump him long and contested. And Coach Platt came up there and said, "What did we say we were going to do?" He said, "Coach, I wanted to, don't you get Brad." So we would get line drills for anything. You always
absolutely.
You always
my God.
So he said, "Get fucking 10 for coming back at me."
Absolutely.
Like, "Coach, I was just." He still won't stop. Give him 20. That was like this, and so by now Mark Zord and Hank Ward, captain, said, "Dunk, easy." He said, "No, I'm gonna get my point across." He said, "Coach, this one, give him 40.
30.
And we're like, "Brad, we're grabbing him." He said, No. He got up to 180. And
I do know this story.
He
Yes.
said, "You had enough, Duncan?" Brad said, "I'm just getting started. Give me some more." And all of a sudden, and Coach did that. Valley coach walked over and said, "Dunk, that's enough." Brad had 222 line drills.
Yep.
He missed dinner at the dorm, and Brad walks up to the men and said, "Don't cut none of them off." Told you I'm running and the guards had to run them in 28. That's down, back, down, back.
Yep.
Brad came in. We were coming from dinner when he got done. He walked past, goes up and said, "And I did every last one of them in 28 seconds." That's the most amazing thing I've ever seen at Illinois State University. And I'm talking about championships, whatever. And Coach was this, and I know Coach Dalwall think that was the coolest thing he ever saw. Suicide. Okay, didn't cut none of them. And like I said, you think no, Brad is Coach Dalwall's favorite player, and second place is way down there. Trust me on that. Trust me on that, man. So.
All right, so we're going to talk about the Tulsa game. I'm also going to put up a picture of Rickie and I. I get to work Rickie's camp, so I always want to throw that in, right? He does a lot of training with young kids. He works the camps. If you know of kids that love to play basketball, he is one of the best trainers and best camps in town. And I'll put a picture of him and I together, and I go help out whenever I get a chance to. And so that is awesome. So I want to make that call out. But now we were at and their picture will be up as we're talking, but we're here.
Hold on.
And he teases.
Do you just show them how to set screens? Is that what your job is, or what?
Yeah, that's all I do. Yeah, and how to foul. A good hard foul.
How to foul and set screens. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Yep. That's. I'm also really good at how to sit on the bench and hand teammates waters right from the managers so I can hand the waters up. Thank you, Rickie. You see what I have to work with here. It's not good.
Man, but way too much fun.
Rickie and I was working Rickie's camp just last Thursday, just 5 days ago, and Rickie was talking about his Tulsa game, which junior year for the championship, Tulsa's either 9th or 16th. We have it on the Bird Fans Forever YouTube. You can watch the game. I'm actually going to watch the game and stat the game because we have no doubt he scored 20 points. We have no doubt he got 10 rebounds. We have no doubt he got 9 assists.
But that's my favorite game of all time, and it's not the most points I scored, but for what it meant, we were playing for the championship. We were playing the number 9 team in the country. We were ranked
9. Thank you.
So it meant number 1 seed, win the title, cut down the nets, do a championship, and beat Tulsa, who was our rival then. And I played pretty well. Now the thing is that I played 40 minutes, and that's the closest. I know Muhammad Ali once said when he fought Joe Frazier, the third time he said, that's the closest to death I've ever came in my life. That game was probably the closest I've ever came of passing out playing basketball. I mean, because my adrenaline was high, it had so much, and I just couldn't breathe in certain parts of the game, and he wouldn't take me out, and I wasn't going to come out, and I didn't want to lose, and
right.
But you know what? I'm like, you got 8,000 people yelling, and it just, it was amazing. But the turnover part, man, I mean, I played well, but the thing is, and I share this with all the kids I work with, is that that game allowed me to stay aggressive, be aggressive, play more downhill, and to keep coming. And I tell kids all the time, I say, you know how the Grand Canyon was built. The Grand Canyon used to be flat. It was running water that built the Grand Canyon. And to make a diamond, you got to have pressure. All those analogies and all those things we've said before. But that was truly a game, man. That me, Mike, and Brad just kept pressure on them, kept pressuring. They kept pressing.
Yeah.
And they won a national championship in Arkansas with that defense.
Yeah.
We know it works at the highest level. But that day, me, Brad, and Mike just kept, and we had some success again in the tournament that we beat them in the year before. But we just kept coming, and we kept coming, and we kept coming, and they turned us over. Now, the last thing I want to say about that is that there's two types of turnovers. There's turnovers where they can get it and go, and it's transitional. There's dead ball turnovers. So, John, make sure you chart this when you watch it. One of my turnovers was an offensive foul. That means play stop. We get a chance to get back to the defense.
Right.
One was an over and back.
Yep.
When they trapped me at half court. One was a travel. Okay, so we got a chance to get back. So I never threw the ball away.
No, and you said you have 6. I'm teasing you and say it's 9. I'm horribly dyslexic, and you tease me all the 6. Time.
But it was not. I didn't throw it away. So it was basically, like I said, offensive foul, over and back. Okay, so if you're going to turn it over, it gives your defense a chance to get back. Only 2. Yeah. I'm going down now.
You're going down.
But no, it's we were just. It was a great game, man. And Tulsa had 2 good guards, man. Ricky Ross and Steve Harris, man.
Oh, yeah.
Harris ended up being a first-round draft choice. Ricky Ross was on that All-American team with Isaiah Thomas and Ralph Sampson. Man, they were loaded. Herb Johnson was with me with Cavaliers when we both got drafted by Cavaliers. And, man, it was just a game, man, back and forth, man. It's one of my favorite games to watch on video, And, Hank, and the most special thing about it was, to be totally honest with you guys, we had 2 seniors, man, that did a phenomenal job, Hank Corley and Mark Zwart. And Mark hits his last. Mark's averaging about 7 points a game, 8 points a game. But that game, Mark hits his last 9 shots. Hank goes for 25 and 12. Our seniors led us, and that's how you want to do it, man. You want your seniors. Yeah. And Mark wasn't playing well the first half, and then caught fire, man. Of my 10 assists, 6 went to Mark. Because and it's funny, man, because that year. We had some people that quit. We had some injuries. We basically, if you look at that video, man, it's only 2 players on the bench, man.
Yeah.
We basically had 8 players the whole year. You name another team that finished in the top 15 in the country ranked, and not 8 players that played. We had 8 players on the team.
Yeah.
Billy Braxton played, but had a broken foot most of the year. Hank had we had 8. The 3 managers had to practice all year.
Yep.
And it was nuts, man. I mean, so everybody played. I averaged 38 minutes a game that year, man. He did. Yeah. And but it was funny, man, because in the warm-up layup line it's only 8 players, 4 on that side, 4 on that side. Weird, man. You're worrying yourself about a layup, like, man, am I trying to shoot another layup in the warm-up line? And it was we were like, and then in practice, if a manager hit a shot.
Oh.
We had a couple big boned managers, Tony, big boned guys. Say, fat, but if they hit a shot against us in practice, that means we ran, baby. And every now and then, the sun shines and the dogs rearing every now and then, right? the manager would hit a shot, man, and we was like, he said, and we would say, you hit another shot, you see what happens to you after practice. Because, but he didn't change what he coached us. We still went from 2:20 to 6 o'clock. People don't realize that. 2:20 to 6, right, Pimp?
Amen.
Every day. No day off.
Every day.
Now you can only go, 6 hours, mandatory day off. Back
Yep.
then, we went from 2:20 to 6 every day. 42
Slick
days
Rick.
straight before you got your first day off. Practice twice on Christmas. Okay. Coach figured out a way to hook up a generator on the bus that when as soon as the game was over, he could watch the game tape.
The tape coming home, and they would watch tape all the way home, and we would hear it all the way home, and guys would be pulled back and watch plays.
How long was that trip from West Lafayette? It would take you about 3.5, 3.5?
3.5,
Yeah.
Bus maybe 4, Peoria charter, yeah.
My freshman year, New Mexico State was in the Valley, West Texas State. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we played New Mexico State, we just bused to West Texas.
Right.
That was in West Texas, New Mexico State, Wichita State. You were gone for like 7 days off the campus.
Yeah, absolutely.
They would watch those games after there, man, and if you played well, I played bad, you could just hear them up there, man. You tried to go through the front of the bus. Hey, man, I would have rode on the outside of the bus, on the grill if I could have.
They did it with you guys. They did it up in the front of the bus.
They would just be yelling at you. If you played well, you'd be like, hey, come on back here, coach, because let's watch this together. Let's watch this together. I'm trying to get some more minutes. Hey, rewind that. The thing is, they never set it up when we played well that quick. They might no. When we played bad, that thing was ready to go. I mean, and the bus
and it was loud. You could.
It's running down the battery. We don't pay you to tell you about the battery. I'm like, man, we don't get. New Mexico, that's a desert. Ain't nothing around there, man. We're about your bodies in that desert, man. And we're riding the bus through, watching game tape, and the battery's going down. And comes to the game that I want to watch it, man. He said, you got to take this generator off, man. It's like, hey.
All right, Slick. Thank you so much for being on. This is where we turn it over to you to close out. You've been a huge influence to the guys that came after you, and we love you to death, and, it is awesome. So here's your close.
Man, first of all, Pimp, thank you, man. I remember when you broke your foot, man. I was still playing professionally, man. I was like, man, I never seen anybody, and me and you talked about this. It's like, and I told myself, I said, this kid ain't sitting out with this broken foot. I said, Coach, he gonna play. And I'm home from from the CBA, from a break from the CBA. I was like, this kid's gonna play. He ain't sitting out with a broken foot, man. I was like, and that's what resonates with me, man. Is that I'm not surprised that you're doing what you're doing, and you
appreciate
done great work with State Farm, man. Because your passion for life, your passion for being a Redbird, man, it resonates, man. So thank you, man. I basically played a small part, man. I just played my part, man. I was lucky enough, man, to come to a place, man, where this town has taken me in. I couldn't live in a better place. If you would have told me I would still be living in Bloomington, or I work at Illinois State for 25 years after coming back into town, man, I would have said you're crazy, man. I'm a mama's boy. I was going back to stay with my mama, but this town's been great. I want to thank everybody, the people who listen to this podcast. You have no idea how much fun you made this. So, and I try to say thank you when you see me out there. I try to say thank you. And a lot of times people say, Rickie, why do you think I'm in it? Thank you, because you had no idea. And Jon can speak to this, how much you pulled those teams through when it was dark before the dawn, man. So Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I'm going, it ain't Taco Tuesday, but I'm going to get some wings somewhere.
Go get some wings. All right, so this is Bird Fans Forever, episode 38 with Rickie Johnson.